So good evening, friends. We have today Mr. Lemier, advocate, a person with adequate grounding in technology also, based in Nagpur. And in fact, we are looking forward to him starting a Nagpur branch or chapter for our FDPPI also. Mr. Lemier is known to me for quite some time now, more than a decade, because he has been very active in many social projects of creating cyber awareness. He even created a cyber helpline where on telephone queries on cybercrime could be answered. Um, he has also handled a number of adjudication cases in IPA 2000. Uh, and in fact, according to his estimate, I think he should have helped uh, cybercrime victims recover more than a crore of rupees uh, in various litigation efforts. And he is also one of the persons who made, I think, the adjudicator of Bombay and had one particular hearing on a video conferencing mode. Am I correct, Leme? That was a path-breaking development. It was actually several years back. We are happy to have Mr. Lemier today speaking here. Lemier, you have lost the share screen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A minor correction is Dr. Lemire now.
He has become Dr. Lemier because he has done his PhD also. I think his PhD is also on the cyber law area only. Maybe whatever I have left out, Lemier himself will fill up. So, Mr. Lemier, the floor belongs to you. Have a brief introduction of yourself if I have missed out anything, and then you can go ahead.
Thank you, Navi sir. The topic today I will be handling is data privacy and the cases dealt in the court, that is TDSAT as well as adjudicating officer. So we will be dealing only case laws, limited case laws, because as you know, very few cases are put before adjudicating officer and very few of them have gone to TDSAT, which is Appellate Tribunal at New Delhi. So it is already I have been introduced. I hold diploma in mechanical engineering, then graduation in commerce and LLM in international laws. Thereafter, I done my PG diploma in cyber laws and information technology from Nagpur University. Recently, I have been awarded PhD in cyber law and topic was Article 19 and cyberspace, that is fundamental rights and how those rights are now in cyberspace. I have been practicing in cyber litigation since 2008, so late entrant in cyber litigation, but I have appeared before adjudicating officers of Maharashtra, Delhi, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Odisha and UP. So I'm proud to absolutely share that I have provided relief of 1 crore rupees to victims. I am regularly appearing before TDSAT for various clients and a unique venture which is cybercrime helpline, through which we provide telephonic advice or some communication also to more than 10,000 victims as on date in India as well as abroad. And I am regularly teaching this subject with blessings of Navi sir. Many times I trouble him for some difficulties, so he is always there to help. So we will start this particular topic. First, we understand there is only limited provision in information technology at presently as far as dealing of privacy or data privacy is concerned, and that is mostly section 43A. And main difference why I am keen to have PDPB is here this particular law is applicable only to body corporate and not to government officials or government departments. So where a body corporate possessing, dealing or handling any sensitive personal data or information in a computer resource which it owns, controls or operates is negligent in implementing and maintaining reasonable security practices and guidelines, and thereby causes wrongful loss or wrongful gain to any person then such body corporate shall be liable to pay damages by way of compensation to the person so affected. So only section 43A is presently available under Information Technology Act to protect data privacy or breaches as far as data is concerned. So with this limited section, there are few cases filed before adjudicating officers across, I won't say India, very few adjudicating officers are working in India. PDPB covers specifically section 43A in expanded or larger form, that is to provide for protection of privacy of individuals relating to their personal data, and it specifies flows and usage of personal data, and it also covers government. So we are not dealing with PDPB right now. So we will deal few cases which were dealt before adjudicating officer. Most of the decisions are from adjudicating officer Maharashtra. So in first case, complaint number is available. It was fallout of previous complaint, and in which bank details of the complainant were compromised, and bank, based on those compromise of bank details, civil suit was filed against the complainant. As far as bribery is concerned, that particular complaint was dismissed by honorable adjudicating officer, but because the reason was he didn't come up with, came with clean hands, but respondent were guilty of violating privacy of the complaint, that particular bank details were compromised. So question before adjudicating officer was whether bank in unauthorized manner shared the details of complainant and is liable for compensation. So in this particular case, bank manager stated in his police statement that contents of bank statement match with the complainant's bank account data, but format is not the standard format in which bank gives printouts. So also it is the bank's policy not to give detailed statement to anybody without approval of the customer. In this particular case, somebody managed to access bank's server, get out the printout of that particular bank statement and reproduce it before the court for some civil remedy where civil suit was going on. So bank stated that the contents are verified from the bank, but the format is not according to which bank issues that particular statement. So here AO observed that bank has not done any investigation on its own about the incident, and it speaks in the volume about apathy of privacy of customer sensitive private information by the bank. So bank is not cautious enough to protect private or sensitive personal data of the customers, and in this particular matter bank was penalized for not protecting the data of the customer. Another case, again it's related to bank. Here allegations where respondent obtained information of complainant's bank account and used it for the benefit of family court where some matrimonial dispute was going on. So bank's information was obtained, it was produced before the matrimonial court for obviously the reason of maintenance, etc. Bank allegedly admitted that statement was from bank server, but maintained that bank statement can be given only to the account holder, and bank had not given any account statement to wife of the complainant. So here privacy was breached. The statement of account holder was given to his wife. Bank also maintained that statement is from bank server, but maintained that bank didn't give the statement to anybody. So it is not possible. Police investigated the matter. That statement produced by wife as per the IP address and details of the statement was from server of the bank. So police investigated the matter and gave their opinion that the IP address of that particular document was bank server, and but not from the net banking account. So it was 100% from bank server. Some bank employee was involved into this particular issuance of the statement. And then AO also observed that bank has failed to protect confidential, private and sensitive data of the customer. Here, what is happening, what is sensitive personal data of the customer is defined under certain different provisions under Information Technology Act. So whether bank account statement, format of that particular statement falls within the purview of sensitive personal data of the customer, AO here observed that this particular issuance of statement amounts to sensitive personal data, and also observed that bank has failed to provide any information about the city, the branch from which statement was generated. So bank didn't provide all these informations before adjudicating officer. The situation where a bank which is custodian of financial information and assets of its customer is totally unaware how the internal system generated statements reach to a third party without the consent of the customer is alarming and disturbing. Bank also admitted that there is no mechanism to check the system logs and audit trails of internal bank staff using the system to collude with outsiders to leak the sensitive financial information. So in this particular case, lot many issues came forward, and bank actually admitted that they don't have any mechanism to give this particular check the system logs and audit trails of internal banking staff who are using that particular system. These cases are related to 2000 year 2013 14 etc. So there are certain changes after this particular decision, but at that particular point of time there was no mechanism to track this particular system logs etc. Even though the information was used in the family court and not to malign or defame the complainant, however, wife has breached the sections under IT Act by accessing information of the complainant in an unauthorized fashion and using it for her benefit and to support her claim in family court, which she could have obtained by legal process by order of family court. So court observed that this statement could have been observed by other way, but she used unethical ways to obtain that particular statement, accessing bank server or statement or private confidential information of the complainant husband. And in this particular case, wife and bank both were penalized by the adjudicating officer. This is another interesting case. It is related to data theft only or breach of privacy only. Respondents were alleged that they transferred sensitive information of the complainant company during course of employment in unauthorized manner on their personal email IDs. So what has happened? Company has provided them official mail ID to communicate, but it was observed that respondent transferred some information on their personal mail IDs simultaneously, means making personal mail ID in CC or BCC and transferred that entire information on their personal mail IDs. So also informed that particular information to the competitor company dealing with identical and similar business. So they got this particular information and transferred this particular information with the competitors also. Respondents defended that data is available freely and complainants used to send data on personal ID. So the defense of respondents was that the complainant themselves transferred the data various times on their personal mail IDs, and whatever data is sent to personal ID of that particular customer belongs to that particular person. That was their defense before Honorable Adjudicating Officer. But AO observed that use of personal mail IDs don't give proprietary right over the data to the user. So if anybody is communicating that particular person on his personal mail ID, but if that is related to business or related to his company activity or related to his employment activity, then it doesn't give proprietary right to the email holder. So in this particular case, initially damages of 30 lakhs were granted to the complainant, but the case went on in appellate tribunal before TDSAT, and TDSAT reduced the fine, means compensation, to half, that is up to 15 lakhs, and TDSAT hold that R2, respondent 2 was not liable as there was no convincing evidence against R2. So this particular judgment is from TDSAT, which is appellate tribunal, as far as adjudicating officers matters are concerned. Now, next case which relates to data theft or source code theft. These case numbers are available in all the presentations. These are, most of the cases are before adjudicating officer Maharashtra. Data theft, source code theft. The dispute was related to the data theft and source code theft between two IT firms. There was some banking software which was provided by one IT company, and there was some dispute related to who owns that particular source code. So, as far as this particular matter of source code theft is concerned, AO observed that it is not even a proper copyright dispute. It is more of a dispute regarding contracted services not being rendered to the satisfaction of client, and it does not come under purview of IT Act. So you will be amazed why this particular case is put before you, when AO has said that it is not within the purview of IT Act. The next thing is very interesting and which is very surprising, that but in this case Honorable AO made very interesting observations. The respondent is having business from multiple banks, and NPCI also was the one of the clients of that particular respondent. It turns out that NPCI is operating the National Financial Switch ATM network, which means that all internet ATM transactions of the entire country hit the NPCI switch. It also emerged during the hearing that neither NPCI nor any bank has signed NDA, non-disclosure agreement, with the respondents before passing on this highly sensitive data to them. So in this particular case, though it was related to source code theft, during course of arguments or whatever were documents submitted before adjudicating officer, the then adjudicating officer, I can name him also, Mr. Rajesh Agarwal, who had pronounced most of the decisions related to Information Technology Act as far as Maharashtra is concerned. He observed that neither NPCI nor any of the bank carried out non-disclosure agreement with the vendors to whom they pass highly sensitive data. So no NDA was carried out, and he further observes that in turns, respondent has been equally negligent in passing on this data to its subcontractors on unencrypted CDs sent through regular courier. So how the most sensitive personal data of the bank customers transfer hands, and that too without encryption, without any agreements. So the decision in this particular case, observation in this particular case, what is more worrisome is that NPCI is also running the Aadhaar payment bridge system, which includes UID of the customers. Now UID number is, perhaps this decision is 2014. Mind you, when this decision happened, 2014. Puttu Swamy case was not in sight at that particular point of time. So now UID number is perhaps the most sensitive data of an Indian citizen, which needs to be protected even more than the social security number of USA, as it has linkage with biometrics. Honorable AO, while dismissing the complaint not falling under ITA, penalized NPCI. This complaint, unfortunately, very few debates or discussion happened on this particular complaint or decision of adjudicating officer, but he penalized NPCI and respondent company with token fine, that is 10,000 rupees each, paid to the treasury. But the NPCI, which is the apex body as far as all the payment gateways etc. are concerned, was penalized for not protection of sensitive personal data. So this is why this particular judgment is cited. The date of judgment is 28th January 2014. It is of adjudicating officer Maharashtra. Again, when we are talking about privacy or breach of privacy, this is ATM cloning case where lot many customers were cheated at petrol pump by swiping of the debit card. Means what was the practice at that particular petrol pump? The vendor used to come with one particular machine, used to swipe that particular card at that particular machine. Then he will tell the owner of that particular card that this particular machine is not working. he will again bring some new machine, again swipe the card. So customer used to put that particular PIN number twice on that particular machine. And with this particular modus operandi, lot many customers' data was transferred on that particular swiping machine, or what we can say a skimmer. And through that cloning card, huge transactions were carried out. Only few customers came forward and put the matter before adjudicating officer as far as privacy or sensitive information compromise is concerned. And AO observed that petrol pump is offering its customer options of credit debit card payment system. It is their duty to protect customer sensitive data as per section 43A of Information Technology Act. And he also observed that by allowing dummy machine to be used to clone the cards, the due diligence clause is breached. So here, respondent, petrol pump and Indian Oil Corporation, which was made in the which was the party in the capacity of vicarious liability, compensation is nominal, but almost lot number of victims were there. So this was the case where when ATM card is cloned, the victim has this particular defense. Now under zero liability, almost this factor is taken care of, but it was decision again of 2015 when zero liability was not in sight. Now these are lot number of cases as far as mobile SIM duplicates are issued without due diligence. Most of the telcos have been fined or penalized by various adjudicating officer. So in many cases decided by Honorable AO and also upheld by TDSAT. Duplicate mobile SIM cards were issued by telcos without proper verification of the documents or checking the authenticity of the claim or reason for issuance of duplicate SIM card. So exchange of SIM card, mobile service providers don't obtain proper document, don't verify the documents. It was previous to this OTP regime or Aadhaar or this particular documentation regime. But at that time, lot many frauds happened and many people lost huge amount of money. So there is an undeniable direct nexus between blocking of SIM card, issuance and use of the duplicate SIM card by the fraudsters and unauthorized financial transactions from the account of the customers. By not implementing security procedures, telcos are jeopardizing the sensitive and personal data of all its customers, and by a way abating in commission of frauds related to financial transactions. So many cases are there where telcos have been penalized. In some cases, banks have also been penalized. And recently, TDSAT has upheld one of the decisions in this particular SIM card swapping. And now that matter is before Honorable Mumbai High Court, where the complainant has gone into appeal. Now we will see another cases which are not decided by adjudicating officer, but which relates to protection of data or related to data security. So in this particular case, CBI sought access to the database of UIAI for the purpose of investigating criminal offence. However, Supreme Court in the interim order held that Unique Identity Authority of India should not transfer any biometric information of any person who has been allotted Aadhaar card number to any other agency without the written consent of that person. So here Supreme Court has again reiterated that privacy of the individual is supreme, and unless he consents for sharing his particular information, in this particular case it was related to biometric information, but unless the person consents for sharing of such information, he cannot be compelled to share that information. Again, Justice Puttaswamy case everybody knows, where now privacy is defined as a fundamental right guaranteed to Indian citizens. So this is case after which PDPB came into existence. It was in this particular case that personal data privacy bill was, what can we say, that a promise was given before Supreme Court that this bill will be presented, but we all see what is the present situation. So it was settled by 2017 by larger bench that privacy is a fundamental right or extended right under Article 21. Another case, another interesting case, Bombay High Court declared that when a patient demands or his relative demands case papers from the hospital or the doctor, hospital authorities and the doctors concerned must furnish copies of case papers to the patient or his or her near relatives. So it is related to, again, private confidential information related to case papers of that particular patient. But in this particular judgment, many feel that one point was not properly discussed or was overlooked by honorable court, that honorable high court has failed to account for the ability of a say nearby relatives to demand records from the hospital without permission and authorization of the patient. So here many feel that the consent of patient is needed, but this decision may have been outfall of the matter where patient was not in a position, means it was a matter of discharge where case papers were sought and patient was not in a position to give his particular consent. But it is a view that consent of patient is utmost, and that is what is also covered under data privacy. Another interesting case where again it was before Supreme Court of India, which granted liberty to clinical establishments to disclose the HIV positive status of an individual to other person without his or her knowledge. So the information regarding a patient being HIV positive can be shared for the whatever is the reasoning of Supreme Court, that is at the bottom. The court affirmed that disclosure of the information prevails over the duty of confidentiality between a doctor and patient to protect public interest, prevention of crime or disclosure, or protection of health and morals, or protection of rights and freedom of personal, etc. So when personal freedom is at stake or a large interest of society is at stake, then these sort of informations can be compromised or can be shared. That is the Supreme Court decision in Mr. X versus Hospital Z. So these are Supreme Court decision where Supreme Court has clearly mentioned that these sort of privacy information can be shared, but subject to some, we can say, reasonable restrictions or conditions maintained or mentioned in that particular judgment. Then another case, it was allowing medical examination of a woman for her virginity amounts to violation of her right to privacy and personal liberty enshrined under Article 29 of the Constitution. So it was a divorce case where petition was filed and the defense was that that particular person is important. He challenged the virginity of his wife, etc. And this particular observations of the honorable court, it is High Court, Punjab and Haryana High Court, that allowing a medical examination of a woman for her virginity amounts to violation of her right to privacy and personal liberty. So by this particular example, we can say how privacy is held crucial by honorable Supreme Court, various high courts, also by the adjudicating officers. Another case, Mr. X versus Mr. Z, and another Delhi High Court here observed that right to privacy is not absolute right, and abortus fetus is not part of a woman's body, as it is part which has already been discharged from the body. Therefore, a DNA test of the aborted fetus does not violate the right to privacy of the woman. Again, it was related to some divorce matter, and abortion was carried out without the consent of husband, etc. So here again, Supreme Court, Delhi High Court has said that right to privacy is not an absolute right. Why we are discussing this particular debates? Because on backdrop of data privacy or coming PDP bill, there will be various angles to this particular data privacy. So whether this particular thing falls under privacy, whether law will protect or see it as a privacy, that all these particular case laws will guide us in future as far as these privacies are concerned. Again, BK Sarthi versus Government of Andhra Pradesh High Court upheld right of reproductive autonomy of an individual is a facet of his right to privacy, which characterizes the right to reproduce as one of the basic civil rights of a man. So another interesting case related to, basically these cases are having some particular context, and in that particular context these decisions were pronounced by honorable courts. But what we are observing are various facets, various dimensions of privacy upheld by various courts in India. So these are few case laws which are available. I didn't have means put international decisions which are related to competition commission, where major social media giants have been penalized by different competition commissions or various commissions across the world. But these are the dimensions of what we see as a data protection or data privacy. So when any data which is compromised, now what is consisting of data, again specific definition is available, that which is covered under sensitive personal data, etc. But the big idea of this particular presentation was that there are few case laws in which you can find honorable court's decision, right from apex court to high court to adjudicating officers to TDSAT, where everyone has upheld that privacy of that particular data, protection of the data is utmost, and whoever breaches that particular data is liable for punishment under present available regime of law, that is Information Technology Act under section 43A. But nowhere you will find in this particular case laws that privacy is not meant as a fundamental right by any of the court. And when we are coming with personal data protection bill or act, which will be in near future, so all these decisions will be helpful for again expanding our horizon of what is data protection, what is personal data, what is sensitive personal data, etc. So now with this particular presentation, I open the floor for some question answers, whatever be the question and answers. I think we have ample of time to answer various questions. So
Thank
your
you.
questions or comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ramey. You have brought out so many cases under Information Technology Act, so that even before the Personal Data Protection Act is in place, this continuity of privacy protection or in the earlier requirement which ITA 2000 provided is well brought out in so many cases. I'm sure that there will be many questions. Of course, I would have you could have actually mentioned the names of these parties, because most of these cases were actually published cases. It would have been more interesting to know which bank was involved in most of these things. Okay, fine. Yeah. Others, if they have got any questions?
Hi, Mahendra.
Hi.
Anil here.
Yeah.
Thank you. A wonderful presentation. Lots of interesting stuff to look at. About this NPCI case, I recollect being one of the directors on a cooperative bank. I had interacted with NPCI and I had been through their number of documents, which included NDA with the banks as well as NDAs with the suppliers. So I was surprised to see that kind of a judgment where NPCI says that, or rather the AOS says NPCI does not have any documents. So that was a bit surprised. And most of these cases, I feel the judgment is based on the person who is sitting there and how the way he is thinking about the situation, rather than actually applying the exact law there. Now, one question in the NPCI case, that when the case put up was about the data breach, is AOS authorized to actually look at this NDA and take up that matter instead of dealing with those two vendors about the source code theft case? So whether AO is authorized to expand his horizon and pick up that kind of thing and then penalize somebody? That was the question.
Yeah,
Are you able to hear me?
I'm not able to hear.
Yeah, there is some audio problem, I think.
Okay.
So it's better if someone types questions in chat box so that I can.
What Anil was asking was that in this NPCI case, whatever was the decision of the AO was
Yeah.
based on non-availability of NDA or some procedural requirements. He was asking whether AO is empowered to take decisions on those matters instead of the main matter which was there in that particular.
Yeah. Here, AO used his power under section 45, that is residual powers available to adjudicating officer, because matters were brought before him in under section 43 and 43A. But AO used his residual powers under section 45 of Information Technology Act because documentary evidence was before him. It was in his custody, all the documents were there, police observations were there, and based on that only token penalization was provided by AO. But if that decision would have been highlighted in a more manner, means in a broader scope, the manner in which the national authority, national agencies act, that without carrying out NDA, without point which Honorable AO wanted to highlight, and he highlighted that point in this particular matter. So he had that authority under section 45 which he used, that is residuary powers, means which was not covered under IT Act. 45 gives that particular residuary power, and under that section 45 he pronounced that particular judgment, and it was just token penalty. It was not full penalty, means it was not huge quantum. It was just token penalty given just to highlight, and his observations are wide in that particular. He also means many a times that AO came heavily on banks, RBI, all the governing mechanisms, because the way with which these agencies protect the data of the customer don't cooperate with the law enforcement agencies. So AO highlighted all these particular matters. So as far as NPCI question is concerned, AO used his power under 45, that is residuary powers. Any other question?
So just to add to what Limaya was telling, Anil, see, Information Technology Act gives extensive powers to the adjudicating officer, including suo motu powers, and they can actually apply some penalty paid to the person who is having who has suffered wrongful loss. Beyond that, AO can consider the society itself as his part of his responsibility and provide such token fines. I don't know how the fine was appropriated. So if fine is collected and if it is not to be paid to the victim, because if there is no victim, then perhaps it has to be appropriated to some general fund. I don't know in that particular case how it was handled. Yeah, Kodandaram.
Mahendra mentioned that it was to the treasury, state treasury. So
Okay. But I think they should not have appropriated it to the state treasury, because this is not like a criminal case where you put the fine. But my recommendation in such cases is to appropriate it to some public cause towards cybercrime prevention or outreach, some education or something like that, rather than appropriating it to the treasury. Because Section 46 gives powers only for payment of compensation to the person to whom the loss is
suffered.
Concerned. Okay.
I am Kodandaram.
Yeah.
I have a question. Can I go ahead, sir?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
There are certain references for the privacy aspects in the Information Technology Act. I think I have read about section 72 or 72A. It also speaks, and also section 43. And there is one rules, reasonable security practices, procedures, sensitive data. Any cases have been taken up under these provisions, or only 43A is employed? Because there are a number of other provisions available, whether they have been employed before the adjudicating authorities or by the before the courts. That's my
Yeah, adjudicating
information
officer
required.
has dealt with many cases in which Section 43A was applicable, because he is basically civil judge, so he deals only civil aspects of that particular matter. So Section 43A is widely used, and I'll be not wrong in saying most of my legal practice is based only on one particular section, that is Section 43A, that is protection of reasonable sensitive data of the customers from various angles. So these particular sections are used. Navi sir has used 72 effectively in many his cases when he is defending in civil suits also. But mostly 43A is what I can say covering most of the aspects. You have to find different dimensions for what is covered under sensitive personal data or that particular information. Because when this particular law is very evolving law, very few case laws are available as far as IT Act is concerned. So we have to come up with new ideas before adjudicating officer or before TDSAT code, and come up with different arguments that this particular angle is covered under sensitive personal data. Because what is happening, no case laws are available, no material is available for judges to review. So many a times this is very difficult question. Many a times even most of the adjudicating officers are not convinced that this case is coming under civil wing of Information Technology Act. They give criminal angle to it. No, it is falling under section 66, etc. It is criminal case. So 43A is very widely used as far as adjudicating officers are concerned or civil suits are concerned. And 72, 72A, these are mostly matter related with company also, where information is compromised. So in few cases, those particular sections have been used, but I have mostly applied section 43 as well as 43A and mostly 43A only. So there is one question on screen also that is related to digitalized era, how the right to privacy of individual is to be protected. It is basically very $1 million question for which we all are fighting, that is Personal Data Privacy or Protection Bill, which is not seeing light of the day. So when that Personal Data Protection Bill or Act will come into play, everybody's privacy can be protected. But presently, there is no answer to this particular question, how it is protected, but it will be protected soon. Any other question? Or Navi sir can add to related to 72 and 72A.
72A, that will be.
Add is this 43A became effective from this 27th October 2009. So some of the cases which I handled, like this Uma Shankar's case, 43A was not in existence on the date of the particular incident. Therefore, 43 was the only one available. Of course, 72, 72A being criminal, these things, I have not applied that in many of these cases. But both the TDSAT as well as the adjudicator in the case of Uma Shankar's case actually pointed out in their judgment, which was civil nature, that there could be a criminal angle to it, kind of a thing. In fact, whatever cases LeMay highlighted, most of it had hacking. In fact, police will have to actually pick it up from there and file a prosecution, because the adjudicating officer cannot go beyond that. He can talk in general terms and say this could have happened, that could have happened. But it should be taken up by the police for prosecution, in which perhaps the opinion of the AO would be one of the material aspects which can be considered in the court. And if they had taken that angle, or if the victim had initiated that action, maybe settlement would have been much more favorable to the customer, because whether it's NPCI or any bank or anybody, the moment it comes to criminal action with section 85 applying to the individual CEOs, the settlement would be much quicker. But police will have to cooperate for that kind of action.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
There is also one interesting case where, when there was a dispute between domain names, and police gave their reply that this particular matter doesn't fall into civil dispute. Neither they were willing to register criminal case, and they gave this particular objection, means their observation before adjudicating officer, and adjudicating officer opinion that since police have said it is not civil dispute, I will not entertain this particular matter. So various funny things have happened before even adjudicating officer, and those who are present over here, everyone or most of you might be knowing how many adjudicating officers are functioning across India. When I mentioned adjudicating officer of Uttar Pradesh, since last 2.5 years, we are fighting to file one particular case, which is related to same SIM swapping, etc. And CCTV footage not being provided by the bank. And that particular adjudicating officer is not admitting the complaint. So there is very pathetic situation as far as adjudicating officers awareness is concerned. And when coming up with PDPB or PDPA, again there will be huge sort of mess, who will take up the matter, etc. But lot of cases can be got. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Kodandaram.
If this is the situation, sir, how PDP bill will bring some reform? I am worried. Because it's a fundamental right, we can file a PIL or something like that. But still, remedy is difficult.
PDPB adjudicators will not be the IT secretaries who are busy with other things. Adjudicator will be part of the DPA. So we hope that persons who are focused on that particular law and this thing would be perhaps operative. Otherwise, these IT secretaries were not all interested in taking up adjudicating cases because they were otherwise fully busy with their normal duties. So I hope the situation will be slightly better in the PDP. And anyway, if the adjudicator doesn't admit, the only option available for us is to go to the next appeal authority and force admission of the case. That is unfortunate, but for even admission, you have to go for an appeal. But I think that is an option which has to be exercised.
But in PDP bills, sir, we can go directly to use the Article 32 or 226 and seek remedy also.
Lawyers will use Article 32 wherever is possible. That is different. But actually, there also there is an adjudicator. There will be an appellate tribunal. Then it has to go to the High Court. That is the system. If there is some other urgency and other things, you can go directly to the High Court. Okay. In the case of PDPB, High Court is not there. You have to go directly to Supreme Court. But still, it's better to go step by step because a well-informed higher court will say, I will not take up trial. Say, they will just direct the lower court to start the trial and then come back with their judgment. So that is the normal process perhaps. In very exceptional cases, they may take a decision only to direct the lower court to start the trial. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. And there are certain incidences where, as far as Information Technology Act is concerned, adjudicator is duty bound to miss the provision in law is that he should take up the matter and decide the matter within 6 months. And what has happened in many cases, we have to go to High Court. Fortunately, we have bench at Nagpur. So we have to move to Nagpur bench. That adjudicating officer is not hearing since last 1 year. He is not taking up the matters. And then undertaking was given by adjudicating officer before High Court that yes, I will settle the matter within 2 months, within 3 months, and then we obtained a decision. So there is a lot of, we can say, efforts are required to be done. And unless litigants, means in the petrol pump case, almost 20-25 people lost their money. It was amounting to more than 5 or 6 lakh, but only 2 small victims came forward and their amount was 15,000 each. So for 15,000, it is practically impossible to fight a matter before adjudicating officer. From Nagpur client, you have to file a matter before adjudicating officer. Now everybody is highlighting about video conferencing. Maharashtra adjudicating officer is reluctant to carry out video conferencing prior to COVID-19 situation. So complainant has to move to Mumbai. Means just imagine plight of the victims in this sort of civil matters or this sort of data privacy breaches or section 43 and 43A. He has to file a suit to before adjudicating officer Maharashtra who sits in Mumbai, appear before the Mumbai bench of adjudicating officer, and being IT secretaries, they have all this discretion to cancel the hearing on the date of hearing. So you reach Mumbai and you receive the notification that AO is not available. So since what Navi sir has mentioned, since AO have been burdened with this additional duty, they are not that much serious enough, or they cannot spare this much dedicated time for adjudicating matter. But when it will come to PDPA, there will be specific authorities who will be having this full-fledged job. Because previously also appellate tribunal, cyber appellate tribunal was not functioning. But when TDSAT means was empowered with this particular appellate tribunal's authority, regular, at least cause list is published, matters are carried out on regular basis. So there are some procedures which are being set up, but people need to be more vocal or show their lot of activism in this particular field, because very few people are coming forward for what we can say are cyber litigation or privacy litigation. And that is not healthy situation right now, because ultimately the judiciary is getting hampered. Means people are not able to find different ways. Just imagine a situation if somebody's data is breached, and if that is not amounting to some huge amount, but if he wants to file a case or fight that particular matter, when only one adjudicating officer across that particular state, how he is going to represent this particular matter? In state law like Maharashtra, we have to travel 800, 900 kilometers for fighting one small matter. So these are present difficulties, but hope situation will improve and adjudicating officers in entire say country will start functioning, because cases are there, but since adjudicating officers are not taking up cases, people are also reluctant to file the cases before adjudicating officer. So we have filed our new ways. I myself have filed many complaints in consumer forum under for this sort of privacy breach or confidential breach of data, because we don't have remedy. If it is matter is of 25,000, 30,000 lost through card swap or etc., banks are not providing relief. Adjudicating officer relief is practically means not feasible. So we have filed few matters before Honorable Consumer Forum. Those matters have not been decided. One is very interesting case which is happening on regular basis, that a false number of SBI is displayed on Google. Customer dials that particular number and he loses money. Now our defense is that in spite of giving this particular complaint to SBI, a bank like caliber of SBI has come up with the defense that it is practically difficult for us to remove that fake number from Google. That is the undertaking given by SBI in one of the courts in Nagpur, that it is not possible for SBI, that particular bank branch, to remove their number from Google's, which some fraudster have posted on Google. So various issues are involved into this, and unless many people start using different mechanisms to find relief for the victims, I think it will be difficult for victims to get reliefs.
Srinivas has got one question, Lemay, you can look at it. Now he is asking for alternate jurisdiction of the adjudicating officer when it can be used. Like what happened in your Uttar Pradesh, if you feel that AO is not having the necessary knowledge and he doesn't want, will there be a possibility for you to go to another AO is what he is asking.
I didn't get your question.
That is, Srinivas asked the question that if one AO is not able to handle it because, as you explained in the case of UP, he is reluctant, whether we can go to another AO in a different jurisdiction and apply the complaint, make the complaint, is the question which Mr. Srinivas has asked.
Okay, so we tried it in one particular matter, and for when Honorable Rajesh Agarwal was giving many decisions, I filed one of the case before Rajesh Agarwal where victim was residing in Karnataka, and that AO came up very heavily on myself that
No. Okay.
why you are troubling me, since I am working, you are putting all the. So as far as law is concerned, I don't find, because jurisdiction is there. They have been, state jurisdiction is given to them.
Only if you can find out whether they either the complainant or the you can say accused, if they are in a particular state, perhaps you can use that option to go to the second state, not just any other state which is convenient. It will be forum shopping. But suppose the company has got, let us say, head office in Bombay, and this person is the complainant is sitting in Karnataka, then there may be a reason to go to Bombay because at least one of the two parties has a local jurisdiction, because the Act says if any one single computer in the particular state has been used in the commission of the particular offense, then that state adjudicating officer will have the jurisdiction. Only thing is you cannot hop from one to the other. So initially itself, perhaps you have to decide. If you have already filed it in one place, then you cannot withdraw and go to the another thing. That will be a problem.
Yes, so that is the real position. So once prior to filing, you have to decide whether you want to avail remedy. In that particular case, what was happened, we were aware that Karnataka IT Secretary is not taking any matter, and some transaction happened in Mumbai. Means money was withdrawn from Mumbai 18. So we gave our defense that some part of this particular activity has happened in Mumbai, system was located in Mumbai, and hence Honorable AO should take up that particular matter. But he refused that particular matter. Okay. That was the, means as far as jurisdiction.
Rajesh Agarwal was one of the better IT secretaries who handled a number of cases. After Davidar of Chennai, he was the person. I think you also handled the Chhattisgarh case of CGT MSc, no?
Yes, sir.
That was handled by you.
Yeah, CGT MSc is very interesting case. It was basically spread across 3 states. In Maharashtra, we got 14 lakhs in CGT MSc matter. In Chhattisgarh, we got some 35-36 lakhs. And in Odisha, we got 3 or 4 lakhs. So there were total 5 victims, which whose matter I was defending. So one was from Chhattisgarh, another from Maharashtra, and one was from Odisha. Those 3 persons got victim. And basically Maharashtra AO decision helped us in pursuing Chhattisgarh. But it was also again almost 1.5 years fight with Chhattisgarh AO that this matter falls within adjudicating officer. So these things do happen, but one of the favorable judgments help another judgment because 2 AOs pronounced. Chhattisgarh AO gave 36 and CGT MSc is what has happened. We made CGT MSc as a party, what Navi sir has come up with today related to domain name disputes. It was one of his say comments prior to that particular that CGT MSc is involved into that particular fraud, and we made CGT MSc as a party, and we gone into appeal before TDSAT. Means this particular fine was not imposed on CGT MSc, so we appealed before TDSAT, and where CGT MSc was protected by means a decision of TDSAT that CGT MSc has not done anything wrong. So that was TDSAT judgment because we appealed against CGT MSc that they failed to protect, to take care of their domain name, because similar domain name, we were at least expecting order from TDSAT that henceforth no domain name preceding or succeeding .gov or gov.in, this sort of domain names should not be issued. And that matter what Navi sir has come in today's article related to domain names. So these domain name issuers or authorities should be penalized for issuing this domain name. So if a domain name is say something gov.in, that officer is duty bound, means when you take objection while registration of trademarks or etc., the officer or the authority itself takes objection. How this domain name means registrars are issuing domain names which are look alike or this sort of thing. So that issue which Navi sir has taken up today needs to be highlighted further because a lot of frauds have been happening with related to domain name. So CGT MSc matter we fought in Chhattisgarh, we fought in Odisha and Assam, and Odisha, and we fought in Maharashtra also. In both 3 places we were able to recover the money. But that recovery of money was due to some good action from banks end, because banks have debit frozen those particular accounts on pretext of AML. So banks have frozen that particular money and we received that particular money for our clients. So we didn't get extra money, and many a times, at least some IT secretaries are now lenient to give, say, cost, etc. But previously, most of the decisions, even IT secretaries were reluctant to award cost also. Forget about the filing expenses, etc. But now these costs are being awarded by few IT secretaries also.
Yeah.